Hey, welcome everybody to the Breaking Bread Village. We are really excited to have this conversation today. We just wanted to kind of get together with some leaders in our communities to talk about what's going on right now and just share some observations, some plans, and just kind of be a little bit more purposeful in our conversation. So I'm going to bring them in. We have Brother Yusuf with us. Hey, Brother Yusuf, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thank you for being here. Let me bring in hello, Sister Mawusi and Brother Mantu. How are you guys?
Peace, family. How y'all doing?
We're good.
Awesome, awesome. And then Sister Io, how are you?
Peace, family. I'm doing well.
Awesome. Well, we just gonna kind of get right to this because I really, again, like I told you guys earlier when we were talking amongst ourselves, that I really, appreciate each one of you all's platforms. And I just thought that it would be nice for us to kind of have a conversation. And I know we were going to kind of have to do this a little bit later in the month, but I thought that, as I know some of you all agreed, that it was time to have the conversation now, because there is happening right now. So I think that it's good to just talk right now. So I just want you guys to kind of introduce yourselves and just kind of tell a little bit about what you do in the community, if you don't mind. Brother Yusuf, if you want to go first.
Sure, I have no problem. You hear me clearly?
Yes.
All right. What up, though? My name is Yusuf Bunchy Shakur. I'm a native Detroiter. The work that I do in the community, I am an organizer through the organization called Community Movement Builders. We're a national organization. We have chapters in Atlanta, San Diego, New Orleans, Dallas, and obviously in Detroit. We use place-based organizing as a methodology and a strategy where we take properties. So for example, in Detroit, we took an abandoned house and we transformed it into a community space as a way to build power, utilizing liberated zones in terms of controlling our own interests within our community, building self-determination locally to establish it nationally as a people.
Awesome. Awesome. And much more, but that's just that in a nutshell. Much more. Let's see. All right, Sister Mawusi and Brother Mantu, tell us a little bit about what you guys do in the community.
We are community builders. We have been working in our community since 1990. And we have been in various organizations along the 30 years.
Yeah.
We work with women and supporting them. Presently, I'm working with women and supporting them and eliminating the infant and maternal mortality issue with the mothership. We also, however, have an arm of our journey with
Right. We work with families in our community as the Body Temple Institute through education and consultation.
in addition to that, the Back to Life Healing Foods, in which we support people in developing a healthy diet throughout this coronavirus that came right in alignment with the biological warfare that we are dealing with in our communities. So we began to work with everyone on changing their dietary habits so that they will not be in threat. So that biological warfare issue won't be a threat to them.
Yes, and that's in Cincinnati, Ohio. So if you're in Cincinnati, Ohio, make sure you check them out and support them. Thank you so much. And then Sister Io,
Hey,
tell me a
peace,
little.
everyone.
Peace. Tell us a little bit about what you do in your community.
Yes, my name is Iolanda. I am from Minneapolis, Minnesota, the heart of many of the civilian assassinations that have happened at the hands of our police department. I wear many crowns. People say they have a lot of hats. I wear many crowns. I am a doula. I am the founder of Black Family Blueprint, along with my husband, which is all around Black family liberation through education, parent education. We do work on professional levels with white folks who work in Black communities, and we also do our work internally with Black families as well. My day-to-day is in gun violence prevention, interestingly, with what we have going on. That's a whole nother thing with the gun violence prevention that we're talking about. But I would also consider myself to be a community builder,
Yes.
a life giver in the community.
Awesome. Well, again, I thank you guys all for being here, and I just truly appreciate it. So let's go ahead and get to the conversation. We are seeing so much right now, as you mentioned earlier, Sister Mawusi, with the COVID-19 that kind of came, and it kind of ruffled people's feathers a little bit, caused, like you said, anxiety and some apprehensions and fear and all kind of things. So now we have this whole epidemic that's going on as well in our communities, and I just want to just get you guys kind of talk to you guys about what you're seeing, what you think, some of your observations in regards to it. Sister Ayo, I know you live right there in the heart of what's going on, kind of like the core of what prompted such they call civil unrest right now. How are you feeling with this? I mean, you guys, I know you spoke on your streets being infiltrated and kind of people walking up and down the streets. Tell me a little bit about that.
One thing that people have to understand is that, we are in the midst of a pandemic. People say we're in the midst of two pandemics. We're fighting racism, and racism and white supremacy, the structural, institutional racism that we have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. And then you throw this worldwide global health crisis on top of that. In Minnesota, we are stuck in the house in the wintertime. Black folks really don't come out. And so to transition from winter to pandemic has been very difficult, and you have all these compounding things on top of it. So we are very much so civilly unrested, right? But then we have had anarchists come into our community on the backs of our vulnerability in terms of how we are literally mourning. Our children are mourning the loss of their kinship and their closeness that they had with their, school partners in school. And we have a senior that could not attend graduation or prom or any of these things. So we have a lot of things that we're already mourning. And then we throw this other police assassination on top of that. And so it's put us in a position where we have nothing else left but to fight, right? We're fighting. And so what has happened in my community is that in the midst of our fighting, we've had anarchists come, and then we've also had white nationalists come behind that. So a lot of the civil unrest that we see is not Black folks. It's
You mean
really
you mean what we see in the media, what they're putting out in the media, right?
Yes, what we see in the media with the buildings burning. You've seen us looting. We're doing that. I can say that has happened. We are not initiating these things. And so the community has been on patrol. The community has been on armed patrol for the last few nights throughout the community. 911 has been shut down. I mean, it's just been all different kinds of crazy stuff. And we have to forward think. People are bringing bottles of water. It's like, we don't need water, y'all. That's not what we really need in this moment, but it's put Black folks in a position to do the things that we always said we were going to do in terms of being prepared. This situation in my community has very clearly showed us that we are in the midst of a civil war that's been underground for a long time. Yeah. But the attack on the Black body is very clear and very real. And so we just have to be forward thinking about, what do we do now? How do we truly rebuild a community, a global Black community collectively that we care for? Yeah.
We lost her. Okay, there you go. No, collectively, and that's where my mind is at. Is that how can we collectively build? Sister Mawusi and Brother Montu, you guys, I know you guys are in Cincinnati. There was a lot of rioting there and protesting there. What have you seen?
Well, today I went to the store today, and I go to the grocery store, and they say they're closing at 7:30 because we're still under curfew, and they've extended it this week. So I don't even know if I got a chance to tell you that yet. But it's like everybody's back on their heels after this whole COVID-19 thing. You know, one of the good things that I can say is coming out during this whole part of the crisis is that all the young men that were killing each other seem to have stopped for now.
Yes.
We're sitting here looking at 2019, 18, 17, 20, all the way back. We're looking at maternal mortality. We're looking at infant mortality. That was such a stark reality for us that our children are dying, our women are dying from health issues. Then we have to take a look now, entering 2020, knowing that we were already stressed and strained with 19. Then they say it's the black people are spreading it because the black people have the worst health, so they are the ones who are the most affected by it. At first, if you're black, you can't catch it. At first, if you live in a warm climate, you can't catch it. But now it's black people are spreading it. They have it the most. They have the greater numbers.
And they are targeting these protests as a means of spreading the virus. So it's like a multi-pronged attack from every angle.
And so then we hear police brutality on top of that. So it's like we already got 4 strikes. It's so many strikes that we're dealing with. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
On top of that, we got the riots in which they are planting bricks in the into the riot zone so that people can throw the bricks. Even my son and daughter were out in the riot, amongst the protesters marching, and they saw people begin to throw the water bottles.
Mm-hmm.
That she said, we don't need any more water bottles. They were beginning to throw the water bottles as weapons. So deep, we're really looking at a very deep time. This is really
this is definitely
we've been hearing about it for years. We actually have been, if we were smart and in as African nationalists, self-preservation is the key. We were preparing for this because every day you go to the well, one day the bottom gonna drop out.
Yeah. Brother Yusuf, you're in Detroit, so Detroit in itself has had so many things going on with it before the COVID happened, with the water shut off and, just other things. And see, for me, like when the whole epidemic came, or pandemic, they call it, when that started, people were losing jobs. So now you have people out of work. You have people, that may not be able to get to certain stores to get certain things. So you add that on top of it, water is shut off. They put out in the media that they turned all the water back on, but then you find out the water is still shut off. Now you have protests and riots and this going on there. What have you seen? Because I know you've been out in it too.
And what we've seen is continued repression. The oppression of our people just continue to be amplified. The murders, the assassinations has really just electrified what we've seen across the country. And how do we handle it in terms of tying it all together? I think it's a cluster of a situation that many of us in many cities are already faced in terms of trying to navigate through different ideologies, different practices in terms of from a grassroots standpoint versus a nonprofit position, how corporations influences policies, practices within our community, and we're seeing that coming to a head. Particularly in Detroit, there's been an influx of individuals. Detroit is surrounded by white cities, and so a lot of the young white people have felt the need to come into Detroit and protest. We haven't. There hasn't been no burnings of buildings or anything of that nature, but that's been interesting because all the protests have taken place downtown. So you have people who, prior to this, so Detroit is we've been impacted by gentrification like many other black cities, and so like our downtown is owned by white wealthy individuals, and it's interesting to see people, even if folks, I ain't saying they should burn it down, but even if folks decide to start burning shit downtown, you saying black people like don't burn up downtown, and like as if like we own those buildings. Those buildings are owned by white men and white women who are continuing to displace ourselves. So you see that internal conflict. Like we're saying we're hurting, but then we don't want mass to hurt either.
No, and I'm glad that you brought that up because I want to ask you guys about that. I know people are saying we're in a civil war, that this is a race war. What do you guys see spiritually happening? Because, sometimes I try to look a little bit deeper on what's really going on. You know what I mean? Because everything doesn't just coincidentally happen, in my opinion. I think that things are kind of happening for a certain reason, you know, and, you know, we've all heard about the whole peace out of chaos and all this, you know, rhetoric that we talked about for years. What else do you guys see besides the racial aspect of it? What do you guys see spiritually that's going on right now?
I think that we are in a time, we're in a shift. We're in a very serious shift. And that shift is one that is literally, if you notice, our young people a lot of people are saying this is a young people's you know, protest. Right. And it's a young people, and they're doing this with very on their own recognizance, so to speak, on their own choice and of their own guidance.
Right.
And one brother said there is no leadership, and I say that spiritually we don't realize that there is some leadership, and that's our indwelling God inside of self. That's saying this is over. Guess why? Because you and I, our age group, all of us on this call, pretty much our age group has seen a lot of these injustices, and we've taken it and we have actually created inroads in order to address it, in order to solve the issues we see. And we were trying to solve them so that our children would not befall the same issues and the issues that we've had.
Right.
But children now see it. It's so blatant.
Yeah.
And out in the open, and so another word I'm looking for is so belligerent that with their racism, with their behavior. Even we notice that even in this era of social media, that they're talking a lot about white privilege. That the young people on their own indwelling intelligence spiritually have decided to just go forward and do something about it.
Right.
And very interesting. I feel that there is a leader that in their indwelling intelligence is leading them, and I think that this cycle this is a cycle of time and a shift that is very interesting. So put forward your.
Because it just happens to coincide with what they call global warming and all of these other things. And so, you know, it is like a Armageddon type of concept where all of these different factors in our lives, spiritually, mentally, physically, all come together and collide into all of our realities.
True.
So it's like at the same time that this is, we believe, a diabolical plan, this they feel is mapped out. At the same time, we do believe in what Marcus Garvey said, that he will return with millions in the whirlwind. So all of these things happen simultaneously. It's not that they're not planning this, because obviously they are. But at the same time, everything that we ever prayed for is being answered.
Yeah.
Brother Yusuf, Sister Ayo, do you have anything to add into that? What you see, kind of like what's going on spiritually, you know, besides just the whole racial aspect of it?
Yeah, I totally agree with their sentiments around. We do have that leadership, and that leadership is coming from the inside. We know it is in our DNA to fight white supremacy. We know how to do this. Our ancestors have done this since we arrived forcefully on this soil. So we know what to do. Our young people have heard these stories told of our ancestors who had to do all the things that they had to do to just get us through to this moment. Yesterday, I was on a young man's Facebook Live. He had a lot of people tuning in. And one of the people that tuned in, he had beef with. Now I'm talking about these young shooters on the block. So one of his ops, right? One of the people who was from a rival group tuned in, and he was basically like, bro, we still got beef, but right now we need to put that beef to the side. He was like, we'll take it up in the streets with our fists, but right now we need to arm up and we need to get out on this block and protect our community. So to hear a young gang involved, clique involved young person say like, yo, we got beef and we gonna handle that, but this ain't the time for that. Like, we got to get out there and protect our community. Like, that for me indicated a huge shift in mindset in terms of what it means to be in community with one another. And so the shift that we see is around recentering the family. The shift that we see is around restoring relationships that have been broken. It's around building the social capital that's required for us to continue to build on a collective from an internal hyper-localized perspective, and then also from a global perspective. To wake up this morning and to see that Lagos, Nigeria is marching through their streets for George Floyd, something that happened in Minneapolis, Minnesota. The shift is on a global level. And what it is it's saying we need to allow colonialism to die. We need to allow white supremacy to die. We have to utilize what we got. We know that Black folks in America have a very unique relationship to the United States. Then we also know that the same colonialism and white supremacy that impacts us here has impacted Black and brown bodies across the globe. And so the shift is true unity. The shift is standing on the front line together. The shift is putting the beef down, that petty stuff, putting that petty stuff down, and for real, like looking out for your family and looking out for your community and standing up in a way where we are protecting ourselves. There's one thing that one of my mentors and coaches talks about: self-care. His name is Resmaa Menakem. He wrote the book My Grandmother's Hands. He says self-care is not about feeling better, it's about living longer. And so that spiritual shift for us is around living longer, not just feeling better in the moment, but living longer.
And that's exactly, I'm glad you pointed, Brother Yusuf, I want you to speak on this too, but I'm glad that you pointed that out, because as I said earlier, with this going on, a lot of times we are so reactionary and so emotional at that moment, instead of thinking about the big picture. What is this telling us for a big picture collectively for us to do and to build and rebuild some of our communities and self? Brother Yusuf, I want you to speak on this too. And then I have another question I want to ask you guys that you guys kind of touched on. But Brother Yusuf, let me know, what else do you see anything spiritually that's happening within our communities besides just the racial aspect of it?
I think because our struggle has always been defined in this political realm, it has diffused or pushed down spirituality as like something minute, soft. But in reality, spirituality is tough. It's strong. It's actually political. It is a political force. So when you think about, like, many of us who and others who are listening, when we come into our awakening, that is spiritual, along with political. And so when we understand those two, and we become more powerful, particularly, as we all know, African people are spiritual people by nature. We don't want to, right? And so as the sister just explained, the young brothers, right? That's a spiritual awakening. Whether they recognize it or not, the spirit has spoken to them. And so as a political person, we'll say those are the social conditions. It's the same goddamn thing. Stop getting into this either or. It's a both and. And we need our political awareness to be grounded in our spiritual humanity.
Yeah. No, I agree with all of you guys. You guys spoke on, white supremacy, I'm sorry. And I want to kind of talk about, and I talk about this often, about mirrors and our reflections, right? And I guess really what my question is, how are we going to be accountable, right? So we talk about what people have done and we know it's real. But also, what is it showing us for us to do? Because I'm really big on words. So, when we say that somebody is supreme over us, right? In my mind, it's kind of like we're already saying that they are, we're inferior to them. So how are we going to kind of what I want to say, kind of reform our thinking and start looking at our accountability, as Black people, and what we can do to change some of these things? Because a lot of times, when we say white privilege, that's saying that they have a privilege over us. We're saying that, even when I think about the whole thing of, I can't breathe, and the t-shirts, I can't breathe. It's like you're saying, you're saying I can't breathe, and you're kind of self-declaring that. So I have an issue with that sometimes. And I don't say it in a way to like kind of put down people who do that, because I understand and I get the sentiments. But what I'm trying to say is, how can we reform our thinking where we are putting ourselves back into that power. Brother Montu.
The first thing, and this is something that we came to years ago, and it really it was profound. We stopped saying white supremacy because just saying that is acknowledging them as supreme. We say white domination, control, brutality, any of these other things, but to give them the title supremacy is into our subconscious. We receive that a different way. Now, don't get me wrong, I understand what a person means when they say it. So I'm not into any type of debate about that. But I'm saying the general practice, it's better to actually say what it is. And to actually acknowledge that, they're not supremacy to us is humanity. Supremacy to us is making sure that everyone is provided for. And so I can understand why they use that word in reference to themselves, just like we would use it in reference to ourselves in saying Black or African supremacy. That just means you see yourself as a supreme being. That's African spirituality. But as far as using that terminology, I think that's a good place to start. Or not using that terminology.
Right. I get what you're saying. Brother Yusuf, you had something to say in regards to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think with anything in life that there's multiple ways to look at stuff, and I think this conversation is something that we need to continue to have in-house. Theories is to be able to define theories, and theories always will continue to reemerge. So I think when we look at the work that in the book ISIS Papers, I think that was one of the most profound books in the modern time to really help us understand the terminologies and the pathology behind white supremacy, right? And to the brother's point, like when we say it the way we say it leads confusion because of the supremacy part. And what many of us are doing, we're talking about the pathology, but we don't know how to communicate the pathology of the behavior, which in actuality we're acknowledging the inferiority of white people that makes them behave the way they do. So it's a thinking disorder that many of us are who have a deeper understanding, but because that we drop terms and we don't break terms down to the simplest forms. Even they meaning to do well, but they actually do harm because as we know, an ignorant person with knowledge can be a dangerous person.
Yes, Sister Ayo.
Yes, no, thank you for this. And I totally agree. The language that we use about who we are as a people, the language that we use around what's happening in our communities is absolutely important.
It is, yeah.
And I think that Black people have always been in a situation of identifying who we are based on who white people are. And I think that that's on an internal level. What we have to do with ourselves is continue to redefine and identify exactly who it is that we are, not in a way where it's in relation to whiteness, but just who are we in general. And I think that it has been a challenging process for many of us as we continue to try to reconnect, redefine, figure out where do we come from, understand our family's history, where the cutoff lines are, what connections we have to the continent, and so on and so forth. And so, no, I totally agree with that. The language that we use is extremely important for our people. It's the problem with the English language.
Right. And when you start really breaking down words, you realize the power that you're giving others over yourself when you break down the words that we say and we echo them over and over again, not really realizing sometimes what we're doing to our own selves and what we're teaching our children and others. So a lot of people are kind of, we talk a lot about slavery and about, being brought over here unwillingly. But my question for you guys, and I guess my question is, can we still use slavery as an excuse? Like, are we still able to use that as an excuse? And this is not a yes or no. I'm really asking a question because, some people use it as a crutch to never elevate. And we have to stop with that, but are we still able to use slavery as a excuse, Brother Yusuf?
I think this conversation actually ties into the previous conversation. I mean, breaking down what slavery is. I think slavery is a byproduct of colonialism, but we talk about slavery because that's what's been fed to us. We never talk about colonialism. So slavery as an institution, it's tied into colonialism as a power dynamic that has stripped us of who we are. So it's like, are we going to talk about the chicken or are we going to talk about the eggs? But also, part of that situation, I mean, looking at slavery as well, like how many of us really want to look at talk about when you got your ass kicked? How many when you really want to talk about the most shameful moment of your history or your life? And slavery is that shameful moment for Black people in America. But in all actuality, it can be a liberating moment. It can be a moment of redefining, developing ourselves upward mobility. But how do we create a space, not a safe space, but a brave space? To not just talk about the few individuals, but everything within it. Because we're seeing the elements right here today. We're seeing sellouts. We're seeing people who are undeveloped. All the ingredients that produced us. And when Malcolm talked about the field Negro and the house Negro, right? When folks in Minneapolis doing certain things, and it sounded like the house Negro speaking again, right? But also realizing like every field Negro wasn't a field Negro, every house Negro wasn't a house Negro, and it's like history is that deep where you when you think you learn something, you have to go re-examine it all over again. And
That's true.
And until we do it collectively, and we all won't see it the same way, but at least we can create some core values that helps us understand. Like slavery was because every nation has been enslaved. Every nation has been conquered.
Slavery is part of their history.
Right.
We ain't the only people that's been conquered.
True.
Right. That's true. Anybody else?
I think that we have to understand that slavery never ended. When experimentation happened, when police brutality happened, because I am a women's health advocate, I'm just throwing it in there. Don't forget, they even killed our babies with infant mortality and maternal mortality. This is touching us at our core. This is taking our infants before they're even where they're still in the fetal stage. We've made their lives, these foods that they have put in our communities for us to consume, the mentalities that they have embedded in our whole community, in our intimate relationships, the things that they have done. They socially organized and conditioned us to behave in ways that were self-destructive. So slavery never ended. So can we use slavery? I think, yes, absolutely. Is slavery still going? Yes, absolutely. Are we still captive inside of a slave paradigm? Yes.
And I do agree with Brother Yusuf that, we do have to reevaluate these concepts in the now to be able to give the terminology in today's terms so it can be better understood. Because sometimes, like you said, we were trying to do good, but the words ended up subconsciously doing bad.
True.
Because it's one of those things where now it has become so deplorable that we have a faction of our people that are totally in denial that it ever existed.
True.
And we never thought we'd see the day where people say the earth is flat, slavery never happened. We
get over it.
We were always over here. And, I'm like, what about all the Jim Crow and all that stuff? I mean, how did we go from we just over here chilling to this?
Right.
So it's not, it's one of those things where we have to maybe change the terminology collectively in-house, but at the same time, a full recognition of what has transpired and the terrible impact that it's had on I can't even say hundreds of years. I mean, because it started with the Arab slave trade even before that.
Right. And Sister Ayo, I see your hand. I just want to kind of talk to your point. I always ask people, how can you say, how people say, get over the past. And I always ask the question, how can you get over the past when it's still present? This is still present. It hasn't stopped. It just have kind of shape shifted. You know what I mean? It showed itself in different ways, but it's still the same thing happening today. Sister Ayo, what did you have to add to that?
Yes, I just want to make a point to what Brother Yusuf was saying around the shame. We see how shame is metabolized. It's metabolized in a way that shows up in behavior that's not conducive to long life and healthy living. And so that's where we are right now. We must return to our ways of knowing and our ways of being. We have to acknowledge all of the ways in which our experience in America has metabolized in our bodies, and in our minds, and how it's being passed on to our babies. Despite what happened and who did what, as a people, we are responsible for the cleanup. As a people, we are responsible for the rebuilding. And so while we acknowledge that the enslavement period, the different stages of enslavement that has happened to us, while we acknowledge who did that and how it happened and why it happened, we are ultimately responsible for what being whole and healthy looks like.
Right.
Okay, one more thing. Yeah. Like, I don't know, some of you guys have seen the slogan. I think like a lot of it was said in Ferguson, where people have started making shirts, I ain't our ancestors, or something like that, right?
Right. We are our ancestors, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, which is disrespectful. And that, again, when you don't have history, when you don't know knowledge, have the knowledge of self, you know you can create things like that when you think you're being slick, or because there's nothing new under the sun. I mean, are there moments like Jesse Jackson? I think he's full of shit, right? But, Al Sharpton, right? We know how to how to put them out, but to make that type of statement broadly like that, it undermines our history, and more importantly, it kills any connection to the past.
Right. No, I agree.
We have an elder advisor here, Mahmoud El Khati. He has been our advisor. He's in his 80s, and his fire is still burning for us. And he continues to activate us ways that we need to be activated to do that. And so this is a generational effort, and there has been such.
Sister Ayo, you're breaking up a little bit.
Connection.
Okay. I'm going to let her kind of reboot. Sister Ayo, you're breaking up just a little bit, so I'm going to let you reboot. I want to ask you guys, we had the whole blackout today. And people were blacking out their screens and stuff. What did you guys think about that? And what do you guys think some next steps are?
We actually are seeking to show some level of solidarity. Now, I think that when we've done this before, and this is a thing for us. We have this whole thing of we've done this before and it didn't work, XYZ. Well, the thing is that our intention is to show a sign of solidarity, and solidarity with those who are choosing to march, as well as those who are doing what they can do on whatever level they are. So just show that solidarity, also respect and respecting ourselves. Though we're doing a lot of things, some of the things are on whatever level you're on, but the point is that we're still in solidarity with everyone whom it has been touched by this terrible crisis situation. Regardless of if you are a person who's a voter, or a person who's grassroots, or a black person who is, a woman, man with a child, we are all in solidarity together, whatever level of the fight you're on. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
I get what you're saying, because we do. I agree with you, because we do have to find some kind of common ground and build from there. Right. Everybody is at different levels. So I definitely agree with that. Brother Montu, were you adding something to that?
Yeah, I definitely think that it can be a positive thing, but a lot of our people, especially our youth, have to understand that it does take more than that, though.
Right.
And it's about your everyday activities and how you carry out your life.
Yeah.
A lot of community building is family building in a lot of cases, because we understood that a lot of the African concepts that we came from, like Asar, Aset, and Heru, meant family first.
Right.
There was no Kemet until there was that first. What I mean? And so, where we place the emphasis is a big deal. And so I think all of these things are great tools, as long as that, that's looked at as something that's in the tool belt as far as social media and all of these things. But understanding that there are more parts to make this whole thing operate correctly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Brother Yusuf, did you have your hand up?
I'll go real quick. I think, a lot of the campaigns that's coming, some of them are very trendy. Really trying to figure out, because basically the like when we talk about spirituality, we're talking about energy. How are you utilizing your energy? The point. I had the book, My Grandma's Hand. I haven't read it, but I'm glad you interjected that in terms of, because what we're conditioned to is like we need to die, versus like we should be fighting to live, not fighting to die.
Right.
Now, if we die in that process, so be it. But let's fight to live. And fighting to live is managing our energy, managing what do we give our times to, and also like we have to be more flexible versus this absolute, because you don't support such and such on this day or tomorrow. You full of shit, or you ain't down.
Right.
I don't even know what's going on in my life. My internet might not be working. Who knows?
Right.
All type of things, man. And I think as the sister Ayala was saying, like we don't do enough of really reaching out to each other.
Right.
You have this superficial way of organizing.
Yes.
And we assume that like that's real relationship, but we have to stop coming to the table around like-minded people.
Right.
Like, it's played out, and what I substitute that is we need to come to the table around like value people. And what I mean by that, because when we come to say about value supersede like we know we learned that very well. You can like somebody today because of their clothes, and when they have something on tomorrow, you ain't gonna like their ass no more.
Right.
Come around the values, that's substance.
Yes.
And that's what we need in the movement and the work that we're trying to do. We need substance.
Yes. Yeah. No, I agree. And Sister Ayo, did you have something to add to that?
Our young people believe that the revolution will be televised. And I've been seeing that across social media a lot. Like the revolution will be televised. And so we see, we're seeing people all dressed up and they're like standing in front of a blazing building, with the Black Power fist. And it's like a feel good thing. Like this you ain't doing nothing but spectating, but it feels good. And I think social media creates this feel good thing. Like, look at me, I'm doing something. I'm
doing something.
Bottles of water off to the. And so that's the issue with social media. So we've been working with young people to say, no, the revolution will not be televised. And what you see on TV is not your revolution. So don't get it twisted. That is not what this is. It really does start from within. It starts from within ourselves, within our homes, within our neighborhood communities, and then it branches its way out. And so we just have to continue to work in managing social media, balancing social media. There's a balance. It's okay to utilize it as a tool, but it is not the revolution in and of itself. It's not. And so our young people just really do need some guidance. They really do need some support. This is a part of their life story. This is a part of their legacy and their history. And they really do. They need some guidance, whether they think they do or not. And I think it's our responsibility to bring that to them.
No, I agree, and I like what you said too about utilizing it for what it's worth, right? But we also understand that everything can't be done on social media, right? We can't put everything that you do on social media. You can't talk about everything that you're doing on social media. Sometimes you have to really actually be in person with people and really build collectively, right? And I don't want to quench their fire, right? Put out their fire. You don't want to put that out. So a lot of people are energized right now, but we want to help get it in focus, right? And actually be productive and actually make some real change. Because a lot of times we do, like Brother Yusuf said, you know, it's really trendy, you know, for us to do certain things. And then the next day, everybody puts their picture back and it's back to normal, you know, and we can't keep going back to normal. I mean, and I know at times we get a little desensitized, right? Because I don't even remember the last time I've seen, you know, I saw a white person killed on TV, right? I don't remember the last time I've seen that. You know, our murders are always put on display, right? And they just show it over and over again to where you either get really mad, then you get really sad, and then you don't, it's like it becomes normalized, right? And then you just kind of like, oh, that's another person dead. We see it, we get a little angry and upset, and then we go back to life as usual. We have to stop that, right? We have to actually do something different this time, because that's really the definition of insanity, right? Just to keep doing that same thing over and over again. And that's what I'm saying. You know, I have no problem with people utilizing resources, right, to get the word out, to bring some kind of unity, collectiveness. But we have to think about next steps, right? We have to start doing some next steps. And that's where I'm at. It's like, okay, you know, we need to, as you said, like help out and show them some new direction. And I think that some of you young people are looking for direction. I think they really are. I think some of them want to do the work. They just don't know how, you know, and what to do. And the only thing they're angry. So they go out there and tear stuff up. I mean, you know, and that's a whole nother conversation. You know, I don't get upset with them with that, because, you know, if you study trauma and you understand trauma, this makes sense that people react this way after being through so much in that regard. So that's what I want to talk about more so, and, you know, about what we're doing. Should everything be on social media? Should we talk about everything on social media? What's your thoughts on that? Because I really believe in like the old school way of doing stuff, where you meet up and you build that way. You know, every little step you do being on social media, I don't really like that. You know, so what do you guys think about that?
Absolutely not. We agree with you. The fact that the revolution will be televised is because we've gotten hooked on social media outlets. Our young people have gotten hooked on that. And in getting hooked on that, we fully, literally people walk around all day long with their phones in their hands. Mm-hmm. And scrolling has become a national pastime. I wonder if that was implanted. I'm just going to say it was implanted in our minds as a cookie on us, in essence, so that we will then tell them everything that we do. And then what's interesting is that they also use a Willie Lynch tactic of when the elders say, you all, this is not the way that we should conduct ourselves. As a matter of fact, participating in this is an illusion. All this is an illusion. All this is a trap. Then the Willie Lynch tactic is, can't nobody tell me nothing. That's their right? Right. This whole thing is the commercials. Exactly. The vision is commercials. The Proverbs is in songs. The dreams is movies that we watch. Everything is bounced back off of that.
And what's really disturbing about the whole social media paradigm is that it's actually made people antisocial.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you talk to a lot of young people and they're really alarmed when people actually call them as opposed to text.
Right.
You know, that's really bizarre. So that's where we got a lot of internal work to do with the youth, to really break down to them how this will impact the future. You know, right. how this will actually destroy and derail movements and, you know, organization and all of these things, because people aren't even really used to dealing with one another in a real interpersonal way in the first place.
True.
No, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Brother Yusuf, did you have anything to say about that?
So I've been on social media with 10 years now, and it has been an animal that has taken me on different levels that I couldn't never imagine. It's been good and bad, and the good is, again, like us here, right? The ability to do what we're doing. I mean, has been the ability to meet people. Probably you're more closer with than folks in your own household. that you
Mhm.
grew up with and
Which is
whatnot.
true. Which is true.
And then there's the bad in the sense of we live in a capitalist society. We live in a society that is individuals driven. I am one of those. I'm no longer young. I'm one of those person that some days I remember vividly. Waking up, first thing I did, look at my phone. Before I went to bed, first thing I did, look at my phone. I mean, these things we're socially conditioned that way, right? Because
Mhm.
how this society is, like, capitalism is not just the economic system, it is a human system that takes place, like even how we, like, the things that I do. I'm not good on talking about myself, because I try to re-practice how I want to talk about myself, like the work that I do. I don't try to define myself. Well, I'm the founder of this, I'm the director of that, which is not a problem per se, but I see those things also in conjunction with capitalism, because what it does, I have to emphasize myself over the people that I'm working with, and which is,
Right.
we know that is anti-African, and in the
Right.
phone and the system that we engage are anti-African, but nevertheless they are organizing too. But we need more spaces to be vulnerable with ourselves.
Yes, that's true.
Talk about these things. I mean, again, being honest as a man, as a black man, right, that has a huge platform. You get 100 likes. You got people all in your inbox, right? All kind of shit that's going on. And you're like, damn, okay, this nice, this sweet. Just being very real with ourselves,
Oh yeah.
and then, but it goes to your head. It can easily get you off a track. Well, and as long as you function as an individual, you're more subjected to being able to get off track. When you create an opportunity to be with other people, hey man, brother, what you doing? That's some bullshit. Oh, brother, you need to assist.
Accountability. That goes back to accountability. Right. Right. No, I'm sorry. I didn't want to cut you off, but that goes back to accountability. We have to hold each other accountable, and I think that's important. And that goes back to reaching back out to the youth and reaching out to each other. Learning how to, like you said, Brother Montu, be around each other again. We have to be able to communicate with each other. We have to be able to connect with each other, and we don't always agree with everything. Everybody has different, as you said earlier, Sister Mawusi. People have different levels that they're on. We have to stop being so quick to dismiss people and throw people away just because they don't think like we think at that time. I grew up, in Christianity. I practice Islam. I've studied every religion. I've studied everything, and it's just so interesting that you have people who are no longer in religion, and then they'll dog people that's Christians. Like, you was just Christian 2 weeks ago. You know what I'm saying? We have to stop doing that. We have to stop dismissing each other so much and start to see, okay, where are we all at? Where do we both all agree? Where do we all see eye to eye on, and then start building from there and seeing, okay, I can use you with this. Sister Mawusi Souls, Brother Montu, he makes juices. Okay, he can help you get healthy. She can help you with, Sister Ayo and Sister Mawusi help, their doulas and birth workers. We all have stuff that we can do and help each other out. Brother Yusuf is, a leader in his community. We all have different tools that we can use, and we have to starting there, as opposed to how we're different. You know what I'm saying? And that's just where I'm at. So yeah, Sister Ayo, go ahead, because I could just keep talking.
No, thank you. It's sparking something inside of me.
Yeah, yeah.
There's this piece about our young people that just continues to ig at me. My husband and I teach a workshop for Black parents called Parenting Through White Supremacy. And it's broken into two different parts: the internal work that we have to do and the external work that we have to do. The internal work, one of our tips is around dismantling the cycle of aggression towards Black children. Our children emotionally disconnect from parents, from Black parents, from an early age, sometimes based on the way that we parent. Now, the aggression against Black children is twofold. Sometimes it's coming from inside the household, and then when they're in the education system and other spaces out from the home, they have to experience it there as well.
Yes.
Trust.
Oh, Sister Ayo, you breaking up, and you saying some good stuff too. Sister Io, it's hard for us to understand you. You're breaking up just a little bit. Okay, that's okay. That's okay. Technical difficulties happen sometimes. We're gonna give her a second. Yeah, so that's just where I'm at right now, is that we have to start seeing where we are together, as opposed to what we have that's tearing us apart. Okay. So we all are parents. So I just had another question in regards to what you're teaching your children right now during these times. What are you explaining to them about what's going on right now? And I know many of us have already been doing this work. This is not like we're just not starting it now, and I know a lot of people are kind of like on this, I hate to say bandwagon, but I'll use that for lack of a better term. They're on it now because of what's happening. Everything gets polarized and, kind of blown up when the media helps with that. And so many of us have already been doing this work. So what are you guys teaching your children in regards to right now? Because I see a lot of kids out with the, hands up, don't shoot, I can't breathe, and all this stuff, and I saw one group of protesters that were like on the ground. Did you guys see that on the ground, like with their hands behind their back on the, on the cement or something for like 9 minutes? And to me, and again, please do not misunderstand what I'm saying. I love that anybody that wants to get involved and, do things in regards to helping this movement. But, I don't want to see my kids on no ground, pretending and acting it out. In my opinion, you're acting out your death or somebody killing you, so I don't know. It just doesn't sit well with me. What do you guys think about that? That was just hard for me to watch.
I also don't like the I can't breathe. I don't even like to say it.
Yeah.
Because I don't want that. Mind you, we're very visual people. When that's why they keep showing us the images over and over and over and over again. It's because they know that we imprint.
It's psychological warfare.
Yeah, psychological. We hit on many levels.
One thing that I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. But, one thing that's very disturbing about this whole George Floyd thing, I understand the psychology is different when you watch some person suffocated like that. We become desensitized to people just being shot, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Right.
And wouldn't have been as big of a thing is that they showing this long video. Since when did we get a police clip that's like 15 minutes long?
Right.
And so this is like psychological terror to show this over and over again. And it's imprinted on unborn children whose mothers are looking at this stuff right now.
Right.
Right.
So with the whole thing with our youth is the old adage: if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. That's what our youth should come up with the understanding of now, because these are all extensions of an ongoing problem.
Exactly.
Right. No, I agree.
That's what we've been teaching our children. We prepared our children from when they were young to know that this day was coming, and they're tripping because they actually seeing it.
I know, right? It's like, we've been talking about this for years. Yes.
It's like here it actually is. We weren't
whole life of being health conscious before the pandemic strikes the world.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Because here, look what they strike with: psychological warfare, biological warfare, and physiological warfare. So this is why people are done. We are done. Like, no more politically correct concepts. No more. We don't hear people interested in hearing anything from white people, or for them to organize for us, or to be a shield for us, even in the thing. We don't need them to do that. We need them to keep their attitudes at check. We need them to keep their police officers up off of our neck. We need for them to get out if they are racially profiling us in the grocery store, for them to check themselves. We need for them to do something. There's something other than you can do than to join our forums or be involved in our groups or even lead our marches. I'm sorry, I'm just going out. So that's what we're teaching our children.
That's why I want people to be honest, what we feel, because people are feeling this across the nation, across the world, we're seeing, and we need to be honest with what we feel and, go from there. So, Sister Io, did you have something else? I know you had a little bit of a breakup earlier, but I want to hear what you have to say.
I apologize. My husband teaches, so he's teaching online next door. So I think it's our internet connection. It's just
Oh no, don't apologize. It happens. No, it's okay.
I would just say that we really need to talk to our children from a young age, from a very age appropriate perspective, to support their understanding in what's happening. That piece around not you shouldn't have to get ready. You need to stay ready. Like my team, I told that to my team this morning after we had been out all night patrolling the community. Like we cannot ever be in a position where if you're trying to get ready in the middle of when some stuff is going down,
right? Hang it up, hang it up, hang it up.
So I have a 6-year-old at home. I have a 9-year-old at home. They have seen the devastation across the community. The spaces that they know that they normally see are burnt down. It's very traumatizing for our children. We have to have developmentally appropriate conversations with our children from an early age about who they are, about the power that exists.
That's where I'm at.
The responsibility that they have to their family and their community,
right.
And the responsibility that they have to.
Right, because in what she's saying, I mean, in my opinion, Sister Ayo, are you back? Okay, to me, if you build something up, somebody else can't tear it down. That's where I'm at with it. We have to build up our children. Brother Yusuf, did you have anything to add to that?
No, they said everything.
Okay. No, Sister Ayo, you're okay. Yeah, I agree with everybody. What you guys said, and I know Gina, she just commented and said that we need to do our own internal work, and that's it, and I think she was saying that in response to you, Sister Mawusi, in regards to when you said what you need from white people, for us to do our work, and then they do what they need to do, but we need to start working within. We need to start doing that, and I think that's where it goes back to some accountability and us not just putting it on everybody else. It's some work that we have to do, and first is building self. That's one thing that we have to do, is build self. So I just want to touch on this because health is really important to me. And I want this to be something that we talk about too, in regards to being healthy people, and not just physically, healthy emotionally, mentally, and physically, of course, but we have to be some healthy people because, I don't know if y'all ever been in a fight, but, if you're trying to fight and you can't hardly breathe or, you might as well just lay down, So my point is that this is a fight right now. This is a war, and this is it is deeper than black and white. This is so much deeper than that, and we have to be better in regards to our mental, meditation, and as you, Brother Montu, you make the juices and fresh eating, clean eating. We have to get better, train ourselves to be able to withstand this, because right now a lot of us, we just chilling, and this is getting real, and the whole world is about to change. This is changing before our very eyes, and we have to really be real about that and really be able to put in the work. What do you guys think about that in regard to being healthier to be able to really do this work?
The first thing that comes to mind with that is we as mature adults, we have to see what's obvious and then deal with what's obvious. And
right.
That is one of the things that even with this so-called pandemic, there is so much more occurrence is even in our communities of heart disease, diabetes, and all of these things, which they brought out during this pandemic as a precursor to making you more susceptible. So
right.
these are decades-long issues that have to be resolved, and we need to seriously get to work. Now, one of the problems that I saw is during the whole pandemic, there was a shortage of toilet paper. There was a shortage of alcohol and all of these things. Fresh fruits and vegetables were there because people were not buying them.
Right.
Not a lot of us were buying them. And but fast food restaurants will pull every single.
That's why I said that number two was still getting ordered.
That's a huge part of our problem right there.
Right.
It not only deals with our health, it bleeds over into our mental health because, for one, we must be insane if we go to these people to directly feed us,
Come on.
that we say are the ones that are killing us.
Exactly.
Right.
Then
Right.
we also understand that George Floyd, who was not the only one who was brutally murdered in these last couple months. So I
Right.
should make sure that we do not forget them. But George Floyd, they tried to undermine what happened to him by saying he had heart disease, high blood pressure already.
Right.
They tried to undermine him by saying that, undermine the tragedy of the suffocation by
Right.
saying, oh, high blood pressure already. No, that's not okay. That's not okay.
Right.
We're in a fight. We at least have done the best we could on our own responsibility. That then it's fully on someone else. You know, no one else can try to scapegoat me and my health for that.
And that ties into the whole thing of, again, I think I said it before, but just to repeat, teaching your children this from day one.
Yes.
Right.
You know, because this is the only thing we actually only own all throughout our life is our bodies.
Yes.
Right.
This is the only thing that you always own.
Yes.
And so this is what has to be given top priority. Like Brother Yusuf and the sister Ayo said, we're trying to live longer.
Right.
You know what I mean? And to tie it into spirituality, even as it changes cycles, we're going to a life cycle rather than a death-oriented cycle.
Right? Exactly.
So our spirituality, everything, how we consume everything should be towards life and not death.
Right. And we're trying to live longer and well while we're living longer. You know, I mean, because I've seen people, 90 years old that suffer all the way up till, we want to live well while we're living, and be productive and, be purposeful. So that's really important. Brother Yusuf had to leave. He does a lot of stuff in the community. So he had to leave. So thank you, Brother Yusuf, for being on. We appreciate that. But yeah, we do. We have to be more mindful. And, and of course, ideally, we would love for people to teach it to their children from day one, right? But for those who have not, start now. Start teaching now. Start living like that now. You can make changes, and start taking. I just want people to take back. As you said, our bodies are the only thing that we own, that we have power over. Take it back. I just feel like we've given up so much of ourselves and so much of our power and given other people more power and authority over us than they deserve and what they earned and what they are worthy of. We have to take that back. And a lot of it starts with our language, and how we talk to each other and to ourselves, how we talked about earlier about starting within, how we talk to ourselves, how we talk to our children, community workers, how we talk to each other. That's the first thing. And of course, our bodies as well, but everything that goes on up here and what comes out is life or death. And I believe that what we speak is life or death. Sister Ayo, you see like you want to have something to say? Because I get real when it comes to like having power with yourself. I get real excited about that.
I'm telling you, no, this is so deep, and this conversation is so necessary. Humanity is an extension of nature. We are not different.
Yes.
We have Black folks in particular have become so disconnected from nature. My grandmother, she's going to be 80 this year. She was a sharecropper in North Carolina. My mama was born in Fayetteville, North Carolina. And my grandma talks about how she loves to eat kale, but she will only eat. Now, this is this superfood that just came on the scene not too long ago. But my grandma, as a child, grew kale on a plantation in North Carolina. And she talks about how she only eats it in the wintertime because after the frost would come, because kale could survive a frost.
Right.
After the frost would come, the grubs and stuff, the bugs and things that would be on the kale were gone. And she hated the bugs that were on the kale. So to this day, as an 80-year-old woman, she only eats kale in the wintertime because in her mind, those bugs that are on there are still gone. So like that's trauma from having to work the land for somebody else. And
right.
So this disconnection that has happened between us and nature and the earth and growing our own food, it begins somewhere, and we have to start bridging and making reconnections to this space. The whole earth was created to bring forth fruit for us to be able to survive and thrive. And this is so I'm like, and we grow food here in my house. So I'm like, all these buildings that burned down, plant some gardens, build some farms. Like we can sustain and build and take care of our own. We don't need no more corporations coming in here. We do have what we need to survive and thrive. We do not have to exist and think we're living off of McDonald's and living off of this fast food. We have the earth that will provide for us if we just sow the things that we need to sow. We have
Yes.
It's true.
Yes, the earth, our minds, all of that. Sister
We're really in a place where really building culture, living culture, actually doing the work means growing your own food, means educating your own children, means building systems of health and maintaining healing in your own home, being self-employment. It's like those are the things that we now have to cultivate and develop in our homes, to the whole thing of showing that we're doing the work. This is the work that needs to be done with Ayo and her husband, and me and my husband, you and your husband. Like, we're all doing family system work. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's really now, this is where the frontier is. It's in polarizing ourselves around our families and creating these nucleus microcosms that then attract other microcosms doing the same thing. And that's the spiritual level too. That's on the spiritual level too, you know.
So if you want to see it as a new thing, although it really isn't, you know, see that as a new thing. See that's the new black. See that as the new way. You know,
the new black family magic.
Because when we're winning is when we can let the trends be something that actually serves us, not something.
Yeah, and the fact we go ahead and fall, because then we're not prescribing to the trends of clothing and things like this when we can make our own clothing. We're not prescribing and standing in line when the new chicken sandwich comes out, because we already have what we need growing in the backyard.
Yeah, fighting for
going with the whole vaccination and Tuskegee, experiment thing, because we already are dealing with our own health. We've already built up our immune system. We are already doing that on our own. And we're not succumbing to psychological warfare, because we do critical thinking in our homes, and we talk to each other about this way and measure things in order to know what's truth and what's not.
Yeah, and on top of that, and finding your voice, I mean that's so important. We need to find our voice again and stop giving up our power. And we talked about earlier, subconsciously we have given up so much because we believe the hype, and it's like, a lot of times people fear you more than we fear them, but they fear us. It's this weird dynamic, and we've given up power. So, of course, I can talk about this all day. I have to end this shortly, but I want you guys each to just kind of give me something you want to leave with the people, kind of some last words, so to speak, in regards to what's going on right now of encouragement. Sister Ayo, you can go first, please.
Yes, I would say, again, to quote Brother Resma Minikin, author of My Grandmother's Hands, he says, Black people, we are not defective.
Yes.
We are not defective. We have enough, and we are what we need.
Yes, more than enough, right? Because Sister Ayo, you were in the midst of, for people that didn't see this earlier, you are in the midst of Minneapolis and everything that's going on, and actual white supremacist groups, so to speak, coming up and down your streets and trying to scare you all, and scaring some, I'm sure. Some people probably were. Yeah, and people setting fires.
Like what's happening right now is like an action movie.
This is like a movie. It's like, is this the finale? Is this the finale of the movie? What's going on? It's a lot going on. So you've really been in the heart of some things. So thank you so much for what you had to say, Sister Mawusi. What would you like to leave us with?
African self-preservation is our birthright. It's our life calling. Is our purpose. And we should be preserving ourselves at our own selves and choosing to do it our own self. Self-preservation is the key.
Yes. Brother Montu?
Those are my sentiments as well. And stick together as families.
Yes.
For all of us who are fortunate enough to have families, stick together. For all those that have extended family, community building, like I said before, from the inside out.
Yeah.
That was always our concept, to do it from the inside out, and it's a lot more genuine and a lot more. The bonds go a lot deeper.
Yes, yes, I agree. And I would just like to say, again, as I said a few times, it's just so important to me that we have to meet each other where we're at. We can't throw each other away so easily. We have to see what we have in common and build from there. And educate. Sometimes people just really don't know they don't know. So we have to help educate and not just be so dismissive, and just show a little love because people, some people handle trauma, fear, anger, rage differently. They don't know how to, they've never been taught. I think about, I'm gonna say this real quickly. I just think about growing up, not just with myself, but just period. When your parents get really upset, they will whoop you. Right? That was the reaction with some type of physical response when they had enough. When they were overwhelmed with adulthood, or they were upset with you, you would get hit, right? So a lot of times we have been taught how to respond to our emotions, and I think that when we start to sit back and just say, okay, I need to check this emotion. I need to sit with this emotion for a second. Think for a minute, use my voice, use my mind, use my heart, my spirit, soul, all of that, and then bring all that together and then come back with a response, But if we're never taught that, if you don't learn that, if people don't show you that, you don't know. So we have to start educating each other on how to even deal with trauma and how to deal with anger and disappointment. Sometimes people really still believe in democracy. They still believe in the system. They still believe in stuff, and that's a whole nother conversation. But when they believe in it and it lets them down, then they have a bit of disappointment. So anyway, back to what I'm saying, just use our voice, going back to eating right, getting our minds right, meditating, collecting together is so important right now. So I really appreciate you guys for taking the time to come on. We kind of put this together quickly because I thought it was really important for us to come together. Be an example and show how we're all from all over, and we come together and build, and this is important. So I love you all. I really do. I really appreciate you for being here. I really do. And Mr. Ayo, we're sending out, prayers, light, love for you and your community because, I can't even imagine right now, what you guys are going through. I know you've been saying, right now, it's happening right now, and I can't even imagine that. So,
it's been a healing platform. So
good. Yeah, I'm
thank you.
Oh no, I'm thankful. I'm thankful as well for this space to be able to have this conversation. So I love you all. I wish you all a great evening. Just keep building in y'all communities. I see you, and I'm here, and y'all know I will give or do or help in any way I can because it's so important right now. So again, I love you guys, and just keep doing you.
Many blessings. Thank you for having us on. We really appreciate it.
Oh yeah, no, I love y'all. Y'all speaking out there, and I just appreciate it in so many ways. So, all right, y'all continue on building, continue on doing what you do, and you guys have a great evening.
Many blessings
to you too. Well, that ends this conversation with the Breaking Bread Village, our special edition, speaking to some community leaders and just kind of getting their take on what's happening right now. We want to thank each one of them. As I stated earlier, Brother Yusuf had to leave. He had another commitment to go to, so we appreciate him also for taking his time, and I appreciate you guys for watching. It's been great. Thank you so much. Bye.